Let me jump to the last one, because I know everybody in Rome seems to want to interview you, so I'm going to let you go.
Yeah, right.
I had to wait a half an hour. Yeah. But what about Francis?
That's why I'm trying to give you the best lines.
I know, it's good. Tell me about Francis. He says he cares.
Let me tell you about him.
He says he's very merciful. He really cares about the victims.
Yeah.
And yet he's apparently being investigated, or he's coming into a point where they may start even investigating some of his actions in Argentina and so forth.
Yeah, it's high time.
So what is your general feeling of Pope Francis? Do you think he cares, or do you think he's part of the cover-up?
I think Pope Francis loves and cares primarily. You know, he cares about a lot of things, I'm sure, but he cares about his family, and his family is right over there, and he's covering up for his family. You got a global cover-up operation.
Right? That was fun interviewing him. His name was Peter, I think, right?
Yeah.
I love this guy. Okay, so this is a great example of hi everybody, Michael Matt here in San Pietro. We're in kind of a good mood here, because coming in, we expected the worst. Nobody thought for 1 second they were going to do anything else but what they've done here. So there was no surprise. And we didn't come here to do straight reporting. We came here to get a feel for this place and what's going on. And I got to tell you, there's some pretty positive things to report. I mean, poor Francis. I'm not sure this guy has any friends. What do you think?
No, it's very few.
Very few. Everybody is sick to death of the whole thing here. It's really, really something to see. We just talked to Peter there, and we got a lot more footage from Peter. I hope to do a follow-up program, in fact, talking about. This was so incredible for us. Lately we've been talking about the fact that traditionalists are not alone. So we even have, in a weird way, you have some common ground with the oddest bedfellows, even like people at the LGBTQRSTUV community, victims groups here, survivors groups here. Had a great chat with CNN the other day, found out that we have a lot of solidarity with them too. In other words, everybody is sick and tired of it. So we're not united in terms of our differences are obviously still there. But what does unite us is this is over. This whole thing is done, and this is people get mad at us. They say, you can't blame Vatican II. We get that all the time. You can't blame Vatican II for everything. Well, you know what? You're right. We can't, and nor do we ever blame Vatican II for everything. Vatican II was the great coming out party of modernists. That's where they wrecked the Mass. Soon thereafter, Vatican II, Vatican II closed in 1965. The new Mass came out in 1969. A few years later, they began the whole implementation of the modernist spirit that became the spirit of Vatican II. And so, yeah, you actually can. I'll challenge anybody to come and prove me wrong that what we're dealing with here, the destroyed priesthood, right? And it is destroyed. It's over. That's a direct result of the destroyed Mass. They wrecked the sanctuary, tore out all those things that protected the priest, like the communion rail, right? Like the very vestments that he wore, many vestments, not just this stupid little muumuu that they all wear now. He had all these sacred vestments that were like the priest's armor to protect him, and to put him where he belongs, up on the pedestal. Why? Because his calling, his vocation is a higher calling than ours, even than mine. And mine's a pretty good calling, I must say, as a married man. But they don't get that here. This guy, what was his name? Archbishop Cicluna from Malta. He actually gave the whole thing away the other day when he said, well, we don't laicize priests anymore. Remember this one?
Yeah.
We don't laicize them because that would be an insult to lay people. And there's no difference between lay people and priests, so we don't use that word. We just take them out of ministry. And I was like, you buffoon. There's no difference? Yes, there is a difference. And because you don't know there's a difference, you've got the most massive clerical sex scandal in the history of the church, because you don't know the difference. And you're an archbishop. You what?
They took away the difference.
They intentionally removed the difference. And you can see that in what they did to the church. They destroyed the church. They made it Protestant. They destroyed the altar. They tore out the sanctuary. You can't say there's no connection between that and this, because there is. There's an absolute correlation. You can see it. You go to a new Mass now, what does the priest do? He sits up there dressed like a clown. Most of the time he's sitting in his presider chair with ladies and homosexuals and kids and everybody running around doing their thing, guitar players, and his job has been so diminished that he really doesn't have much to do anymore. And it certainly isn't the spiritual leadership that it once was, where the priest was leading the flock. Even you can see, again, liturgically, facing away from the people, leading them all towards God. They want to talk about pilgrimage. Well, that was the true pilgrimage. The Catholic priest, being the one who offered sacrifice, who offered God to God, had his back to the people so he could lead them to heaven. That was his job. They spun him around, facing the people, doing all this crazy stuff. The whole thing was revolution, and they carved it into stone, and they carved it into liturgy, and this mess is what we ended up with. So there is a connection, a very strong connection to what they did to the Mass and what happened at Vatican, the spirit of Vatican. I'm not talking about the documents. Nobody reads the documents of Vatican II. Some of them are actually quite nice. I've read a few of them. They're okay. Others are absurd. But the point is nobody reads them. It's the spirit of Vatican II that we're talking about, and that was a spirit that, ironically enough, tore all this stuff down that you see behind me, but not here. Because this is the center of Christendom, and people had to come here. So they didn't actually do it in their own house. They didn't trash all the statues here. But they did it throughout the rest of the church. We were in there today in the Basilica, and I happened to go a little too close to find out what was going on with the statue, or with the burial place of St. Pius X, and was thrown out by some police. Get out of there, you can't go near that. Nobody goes near that. Everybody's on the other side where Pope John Paul's tomb is. But you can see it happening here to some extent as well, where they really are praising and glorifying and canonizing the revolution that made this week's summit on clerical sexual abuse necessary. The irony is rich. But we're going to take off, going to catch a plane in a few hours. Oh, I want to end on a positive note, of course. I feel very, very elated right now because, like I said, we found out, been talking to so many people all week long, that this whole thing is done. The pontificate of Francis is over. They're done with him. I mean, I don't know how long he'll be walking around, rattling around here in Rome, but he's completely discredited. People are tired of it. They're sick and tired of it, and we saw it everywhere we went this week. So that should give us a new impetus. And then at the same time, what we found as far as people coming by droves into traditionalism is fascinating. Not here at St. Peter's, by the way. We went in there today to try to find a traditional Mass. Under Benedict's reign, you'd find traditional Masses all over at the side altars in there. Today, there wasn't one. And we found one priest who came up to me and said, "You're Michael Matt from Remnant TV." And I said, "Yes." And he proceeded to spend about 10 minutes whispering to me about the situation here in the Vatican and how good priests like him are afraid to say anything because it's just gone completely insane under Francis. So lots of bad news, yes, agreed. But as I say, we all know the church is a divine institution. God's going to save this church. Humanly speaking, though, the revolution failed. It's fallen flat on its face. Nobody's buying any of it anymore. So that should give us our marching orders. That's why I came here, to connect with the traditional Catholics, and there are a lot here in Rome. They're doing great work. And again, more importantly, many people are becoming traditionalists under Francis. That's the silver lining under this guy. Many people are becoming traditional Catholics. So I would say this trip, our trip, Remnant TV's trip, trying to bring you what was going on over here was a huge success. If for nothing else, it really shows us, don't give up, man. We are so close now. Don't give up. Don't get discouraged. This thing is failing. We're going to get this building back, right? We have the faith. We're hanging on to it, right? This is the kind of place that we want to get back, and I am so filled with confidence that that's going to happen. Maybe not in my lifetime, but at least, finally, people are seeing through the revolution itself. People are done with it. So that gives us reason to get up and fight back and keep the faith and wait for God to intervene. We're going to be here when it happens, and it's going to be a great day. And I really am filled with confidence and filled with hope. So thanks so much for watching. Again, we're going to have some follow-up coverage because we've got a lot of video, different interviews that we did and so forth over the next few days at Remnant TV. Appreciate your patience. We had a small crew here. Just did our best to try to get you the feeling, and I hope we conveyed that for you. It's been obviously, anytime you get to come to Rome, it's a wonderful time to pray and to see and to reflect, and also to be confirmed that the traditional Catholic thing is the answer. It really is absolutely the answer to the crisis in the Church. So I hope those of you who aren't traditional Catholics will really take it seriously now. Get ready, get your rosaries out, start going to the Latin Mass. Come on back and join this army to restore the Catholic faith, the Catholic Church, to its former glory, and more importantly, to its moral superiority, which the folks here, the folks from Vatican II, have completely squandered. The Catholic Church is no longer the moral authority of the world. It's a joke, and that's going to be restored in God's good time. So again, from Rome, Michael Matt for Remnant TV. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.